We are starting a new unit called Filling and Wrapping. The main ideas in this unit are to find the volume and surface area of rectangular prisms and the surface area of cylinders. This is a rectangular prism and this is a cylinder. Before we start the unit, there's a few things that we're going to practice so that we're comfortable with working with these type of figures. Three-dimensional figure vocabulary, parts of a circle, area and perimeter of a rectangle, and area and circumference of a circle. And circumference is really the same thing as perimeter. It's just a special word because it's a circle. For some vocabulary for rectangular prism, we have height, width, and length, the three dimensions of a rectangular prism. And then we have face, edge, and vertex. Faces are the two-dimensional pieces that make up the three-dimensional figure. And in a rectangular prism, there are 6 of these. And there are 3 pairs of congruent parallel faces. So this one that I marked on the top is the same as the bottom. This one is the same as the one opposite it. And same for this last one over here is the same as the one opposite it. The edges are the pieces that are, they're like lines where the faces meet. In a rectangular prism, there are 12 of them. And vertices are the corners. And in a rectangular prism, there are 8 of them. It's important to understand the difference between a pyramid and a prism. So in order to find the difference, you look at the base of the figure. In a pyramid, there's only one base. But in a prism, there are 2 parallel congruent bases. These three-dimensional figures are also named by their bases. So since this pyramid has a triangle base, it's called a triangular pyramid. And because this one has a triangular base, it's called a triangular prism. So we're working with prisms in this unit. So they'll always have 2 parallel congruent bases. If you see something like this, it's not a prism, and we can't use the same type of formulas that we do for prisms. A cylinder is like a prism, but it has a circular base, so that's why it has a different name. But you can still see it has 2 bases. They are parallel and congruent. The measurements that we're going to use for cylinders are the height, which is the distance between the 2 bases, and the radius of the base, which is measured from the center of the circle out to the edge of the circle. And it's also half the diameter. So if you knew the entire way across, you would divide it by 2 to get the radius. That brings us to circle vocabulary. Circle vocabulary that we're going to need, radius and diameter. I said we only needed radius for our calculations, but sometimes we'll be given diameter, and you'll need to calculate the radius based on the diameter. So if you knew the diameter, you could find the radius by dividing it by 2. So if I said this diameter was 5 centimeters, the radius would be 5 divided by 2, so the radius would be 2.5 centimeters. The circumference is the measurement of the perimeter, or all the way around the circle, and we'll practice that in an upcoming lesson. We'll also need that to calculate the surface area of a cylinder in this unit. This vocabulary word chord does not come up in our unit, but if you see that it does not go through the center of a circle, that's what differentiates it from a diameter. Diameter has to go through the middle, chord doesn't. So diameter is useful because it's twice the radius. Chord not really useful in this unit. Lastly, area and perimeter of a rectangle are important when we're finding surface area and volume. Area of a rectangle, the formula is length times width, and it measures how much space the rectangle covers or how much space is inside the rectangle. The perimeter is how much is on the outside, like the edge, and you find that by adding up all the side lengths. This formula shows 2 times length plus width, so you can add the length and width together and then double it, or you can double the length and double the width and then add them together, whatever is easiest for you. Basically, you just need to find the sum of all the sides.